Welcome to the Japanese American National Museum. I'm Maria Kwong, and I'm the Director of Retail and Visitor Services here. And I'm also the person who is privileged to curate the retrospective downstairs, The Year of the Rabbit, Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo. Now I'm guessing that you are all here because you already know who Stan Sakai is. Yes. And if you don't, you need to go downstairs and see the exhibition and you will be amazed. Because Stan is the author and illustrator of a comic book series that's spanned 27 years. And if you look at the exhibition and see how many panels it takes for one book, you'll see how much drawing he's done in his 27 years with Usagi, which is why he's so good at it. And it's all done by hand, all done by Stan. And in this day of digital and computer graphics, that is amazing. And usually in the comic book industry, you have teams of people who work on a single comic, and you have pencilers and inkers and letterers, and then people who do the layouts, and Stan does all of this by himself. So you're very lucky today because he's going to show you how he works and how he creates his character, Usagi Yojimbo. And he'll also be signing his 25th compilation book, Fox Hunt, which is hot off the presses. I mean, we literally got the boxes 2 days ago. And just so you know, we are selling the books over here, and when it comes time for the signing, we have a few little rules of etiquette. He's only going to sign 3 books per person. If you have more than that, you're welcome to get out of line and go back to the end. And if his hand doesn't wear out, you might have a chance to have the other books signed. But we just want to give everybody a chance to come in and speak to Stan and have their books signed. So anyway, that's the main rule. And also, as you heard from Lisa, if you want to own an original Stan Sakai, we are having this raffle for members, so you can just check with the membership table and see about that. Now, one last thing that I'd like to tell you is that in addition to the exhibition that opened today, next Thursday we're opening another small show, which Stan is also a part of, called The Year of the Labbit. Now, a labbit, and I forgot my little prop, but you can see them in the store, is a little blank toy that we sent out to about 40 or 50 artists to customize. And they will all be on display Thursday. The opening is at 6:30 at night. It's free. So come back and see Stan's Labbit. We will be selling these art pieces online, and we will be auctioning off certain ones on eBay. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to learn more about that on Thursday. So without further ado, I present to you Stan Sakai.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Good. Thank you. I'm Stan Sakai. I'm a third-generation Japanese American. I'm a sansei. My grandfather immigrated from Japan, and my father was actually born in Hawaii, on the island of Hawaii. He was stationed with the U.S. military in Japan after the war as part of the occupation forces, and he met my mother there. And they were married, and I was born in Kyoto. And funny story about that is that my mother's father did not want the marriage to go through. But it was not because my father was, an American and the war had just ended. But it was because my mother was from samurai family, and my dad's side was peasant. His family was fishermen. So that was a big contention there. But after my older brother was born, then everything got smoothed over. But when I was 2 years old, the family moved back to Hawaii, or moved to Hawaii, and I grew up in Hawaii, on Honolulu. And went to school there, University of Hawaii, graduated, married my present wife, Sharon, and we moved up to Los Angeles about 34 years ago, next month, or actually next week. Actually, Sunday is our 34th wedding anniversary. Thank you. Good thing I remembered. Anyway, I am a cartoonist. I do pictures, draw pictures for a living, and one of the things we're always interested in is where do words come from? And the word cartoonist, a lot of people hear they know what cartoonist is, but do you know where the word cartoonist comes from? It comes from this. This is cardboard, or carton. My Italian is terrible, but carton. During the Renaissance, when Michelangelo was painting on the ceilings and Leonardo was painting on walls, the master artist would do a drawing, like, just a small drawing. And using an assistant of his, using the grid method, would transfer that drawing onto a piece of cardboard or carton. And another assistant, the assistant's assistant, would poke holes on all the lines, and then using paint would dab it onto the wall or the ceiling, transferring that paint onto the canvas, and then it's pretty much just connect the dots. And that person whose job was to poke the holes was called le cartoonist. And that's how we get the word cartoonist. And it's kind of stupid, but it's that's my ancestry as far as my professional work goes. Most of the time, okay, thank you. I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done book illustrations, magazine illustrations, record album covers, but most of the time is spent doing comic books. I grew up reading comic books, and comic books gave me my love of reading in general. Most of my time now is spent not comic books, but reading novels. I love historical novels, I love nonfiction, and one of the thing that I'm most associated with is this character here. One second, it's open. This is Usagi Yojimbo. Now the first question I'm always asked is, why a rabbit? And, like I said, I grew up reading comic books. I also grew up, I love to draw. And I wanted to do a comic book series inspired by the life of a 17th century samurai named Miyamoto Musashi. But one day I drew a rabbit with his ears tied up into a chonmage, a samurai top knot. And I loved the design. It was unique, but no one had ever done it before. It was so simple. And instead of Miyamoto Musashi, my character became Miyamoto Usagi, because Usagi means rabbit, yes. And this is a character that I spent the last 27 years relating his adventures. Let's see. Usagi was first published in a comic book called Albedo number 2. There were only 2,000 issues printed, and usually you can get a copy for about between $7 to $1,000 now. A couple of years ago, one went for more than $5,000. So, well, none of the money went to me, you know. But you can actually see a copy of Albedo number 2 in the art exhibit here. Now, this is really informative. If you have any questions at all, raise your hand and yell out your question. Basically, what I'm going to do is tell you about what I do and how I do it. Now, Miyamoto Musashi, Usagi was based upon Miyamoto Musashi, and in the past 27 years, he's been made into action figures, toys. There's, again, you can see some of the in this display downstairs, and he's translated into a dozen different languages, including things like Polish, Indonesian, Portuguese. My first foreign edition was Croatian, and this is about 20 years ago. And the Croatian publisher called me on the phone and said, "No, this is long distance. I'm calling from Croatia, and I would love to publish Usagi in my country." And my first question was, "Don't you have a war?" Then he said, no, that's Bosnia. It's almost 50 miles from where I live." But the Croatian edition it's still being published. In fact, I was in Croatia last year, and I'm slated to go to back again next year for an exhibition of my work. Not as extensive as this one here, but it's pretty nice to see your work both read and appreciated in another language in another country. And back when I was starting off in comic books, I mean, there was no such thing as FedEx or the internet or anything. Everything was sent by mail. So it's, I couldn't imagine someone in Croatia or Indonesia or Finland reading any of my work. So this is really neat. Now, along the way, Usagi has won a number of awards. It's received the Parents' Choice Award, Inkpot, which is a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's received the American Library Association Award, National Cartoonist Society Award, 4 Spanish Hacksters, the Eisner Awards, which is like the highest of the American comic book awards. And many of also Usagi has been used as a textbook in Japanese history classes at the college level, as also theses have been written about it, which surprised me that they could actually get a thesis on a comic book approved by the advisor. But all the awards and all the accolades I received always cite my attention to historical detail, and I do try to do as much research as I can into my stories. Now, my stories are primarily for entertainment, but I have done stories about sword making, various festivals, pottery making, taiko drums. I'm probably the only Western cartoonist to have ever done a story about seaweed farming. And, I love to do the research. Like I said, I'm third generation Japanese American, so much of the research is pure research, going to books, internet, talking to people. I remember once I did a story where Usagi plays a game of Go. And Go is a board game using little tiles on a wooden board. And I used to play Go as a kid. But what I didn't know is that it wasn't Go I played, it was a game called Gomoku. And it's like comparing chess to tic-tac-toe, And when I had Usagi playing Go and said, "Oh, I won the game of Go," I heard about that mistake as far away as Germany. And people say, "That's not Go, that's Gomoku, you idiot." But fortunately, Usagi first comes out in these comic books, floppies. and then it gets reprinted in the trade paperback collections. So I was able to go to a Go tournament. I bought a book on the history and strategies of Go, and also there's American Go Masters Association, and they have a website. So I went to all those resources, and I was able to correct that mistake. Not only did I correct it, but the arrangement of the pieces on the final Go board was the same arrangement between these two famous masters played about in the 200 years ago. And I'm still waiting for someone to come up to me and say, I caught that. That is brilliant. But anyway, so I try to do as much research as I can within reason, because this is still purely for entertainment, and it is a fantasy series. I mean, Usagi is, he's a rabbit, so it is a fantasy series. Besides Usagi, I have other characters. Both based upon, well, most of my characters are purely original. But once in a while there are things that inspire me, such as a female samurai named Tomoe Ame. Do you know what Tomoe Ame is? Tomoe Ame is a candy. And I used to eat that as a kid. It's a pink rice candy with edible paper. And back when I was a kid, it came with these toys, little tin toys. There were trains and cars, the trains you could connect together and get a long line of trains. And then later on it became, they were giving away sponge animals and then stickers. But I grew up during the golden age of Tomoe Ame. And so I used that name. Also too, there was actually a person named Tomoe Gozen who lived during the Genpei Wars. This is the Japan Civil Wars. And she was the consort of Kisu Yoshinaka, who wanted to become shogun. And he actually conquered Kyoto, which was a capital at that time, and set himself up as shogun. But his older brother, or older half-brother, resented that, and he sent his own armies against him, drove Kiso out of the city, and finally surrounded him. And Kiso was there with Tomoe and his lieutenants. And he did not want Tomoe to die with him, so he sent her away. But not because he wanted to save her life, but for a samurai to die with a woman at his side was a disgrace. So he sent her away, she jumped on her horse, attacked the opposing army, cut off the general's head, and became a nun. But that is Tomoe Gozen. And so I wanted my character, Tomoe Ame, to have the same type of attributes that she had. She was beautiful, she was skilled with a sword and with a spear. Am I getting feedback on this? Or no? Okay. And so, that using Tomoe Gozen as a model was perfect for me. Another character. Other characters I've used is, let's see. This is Zato Ino. Do you know who Zato Ichi is? Zato Ichi is the blind swordsman in from 27 or 28 motion, feature films and a TV series. And Zato Ichi was a blind swordsman, but he had an amazing sense of hearing. He could hear the leaf as it falls down from the trees, and with a quick, deft stroke, cut it in half with his cane sword. My Zato Ino, and Inoshishi means wild boar, so I thought this was inspiring. My Zato Ino is a blind swordsman. And he has an amazing sense of smell, like many pigs. In Europe they use pigs to rut out truffles underground, so they have a keen sense of smell. And in the first encounter, Usagi cuts off Zato Ino's nose, thereby really blinding him. But Zato, comes back with a wooden nose. And it works just as well, except everything's now pine center. There is humor in Usagi, there's drama in Usagi. The thing is that I own this character, so I control whatever type of stories that I want to tell. I have done historical dramas, I've done romance, I've done humor, I have adapted children's folklore. I did Momotaro and turned into Momo Usagi Taro. But I can do whatever type of stories I want to do. Mysteries, I love mysteries, so I had Usagi involved in a number of mysteries. Another character was inspired by I love movies. Most of my storytelling techniques are taken more from film rather than comic books. Oops. And one of my favorite directors is Akira Kurosawa. He did Seven Samurai, Ron, and a whole bunch of stuff. And this character, Gen, the bounty hunter, was inspired by one of Toshiro Mifune's role in Yojimbo and Sanjuro. And I love the way that Kurosawa had portrayed him with, he's always kind of dirty and scratching himself, and he kind of manipulates people. And so that was my inspiration for this character again. But as I said, most of my characters are completely new from new cloth, and but these are some of my inspirations. Now, let me tell you about how I go about doing a story. Now, the first thing I do is get an idea. And every creative person, every writer, every artist, every poet is always asked, where do you get your ideas? And every one of them, every writer, every poet, every artist will tell you, I don't know. Ideas come from everywhere. And like I said, I read a lot. And, that's a great source of ideas. I watch documentaries on television, on video, and it's, I get ideas that way. But my biggest source of ideas is my editor, Diana Schultz. She's a wonderful, lovely person. She's maybe 100 pounds dripping wet, and I am deadly afraid of her. And when she says, you have a deadline on the 1st of the month, you better believe I get a story into her by the 1st of the month. Now there's one story that I did a couple of years ago called Yokai. It's a fully painted story in watercolor. It was an original graphic novel. And this was done for Usagi's 25th anniversary. And when they approached me for that, I told Diana, well, I'll need at least 3 months to write the story and to paint it. She told me, I'll give you 2.5, and it better be in by then. I got it in 3 days before deadline, and I was so proud of myself. But the first thing I do when I think of a story is I write it down. And the way I write it down is in the form of an outline. You know what an outline is. It's basically, usually it takes no more than a page or two, and it's just snatches of dialogue. And when I'm doing my signing here, you can take a closer look at these. It's just snatches of dialogue, a description of action, and basically it's a rough idea of what my story is going to be. And from there, I do what's called a thumbnail drawing. Now this is a thumbnail. Each of these rectangles represents one page of Usagi art. But I'll demonstrate a thumbnail for you. Yunde, what's your name? Chloe? C-H-L-O-E? Oh, okay. Let's do a thumbnail of Chloe's day. So, Chloe, what did you do? You woke up. Do you live in a house, apartment? You live in a house. Here's Chloe's house. Bushes on the side. The let's see, San Gabriel Mountains in the background. Front door, window. Okay, sun coming up because it's so hot. And the sun's up, let's see. I don't do caricatures or anything, so okay, here's Chloe. Oh, and let's get her eyes open. She's up and awake. Sun's coming through the window. Okay. What did you eat? You ate breakfast. What did you eat? Hey, good for you. A glass of milk. Okay. And then how did you get here? Driving. Chloe drove a car. What kind of car do you have? Volvo. You have a minivan, because I can call minivan. Actually, a Volkswagen minivan. That's even easier. Going to the city, and then you saw the exhibits. Let's see. Cases. And then you're here, let's see, you're sitting on your chair. This is a thumbnail of Poems Day. It tells a story in pictures and words that, if read in a sequential order, tells a story. And basically that is what I do. Telling stories or telling words, drawing words and pictures in a sequential order so that they tell a coherent story. Now, let's go back to about how I get ideas. And this is what is for Chloe. Let's do. Now, one of my favorite stories is called The Kite Story. Basically, it tells a tale from a perspective of three people. There's a kite maker, and Usagi, and some gamblers. And it started because I bought a book on Japanese kite making. It told about a province in Japan whose the lord ordered an irrigation canal to be built. And once the canal was done, he ordered a day of celebration, a kite festival. And it was a brilliant idea because not only did it give the people a chance to celebrate, but all those feet running up and down the sides of the canal stamped the sides into a solid embankment. And I thought that was genius. So I thought, oh, I've got to do a story about that someday. But it wasn't until a couple of years later that, again in my sketchbook, I just drew a quick drawing. And then that sparked an idea for a story. It just came together, really quickly. There's a kite festival, and a kite maker goes into the mountains. He strips off the mulberry bark. He makes paper. I showed the entire process of making paper and making one of those odako, the giant kites, the 40-foot kites. And then he takes it down to the kite festival. Then, because it's a kite festival, gamblers come to town, and they're there to cheat the people with dice. And that was the hardest part to do research on. How did gamblers cheat back in feudal Japan? I asked my mother, she knew. The third story was told from Usagi's point of view. He comes to town because he wants to see the kite festival. He notices that the gamblers have been cheating the townspeople. He exposes the gamblers. So the townspeople chase the gamblers out of town. The gamblers chase Usagi out of town, and Usagi makes his escape holding on to a giant kite. So that's the way that story came about. But once the thumbnails are done, then I transfer the thumbnails onto a sheet of paper like this. This is a pencil drawing of a cover, and I use 500 series 2-ply kit finished Bristol board paper. But basically, this is a piece of original comic art. And the first thing you notice is that it's much bigger than the printed page. And it's easier for me to draw on this size. This is pretty standard for comic book size. And when it gets reduced down, then it looks sharper. All the imperfections, all the funny lines would kind of disappear. The jagged edges would kind of round itself out. So this is the size of the original artwork. Now normally I would ink directly on these pencils, but in this case I redid it, and this is how it looks inked. This is the ink page. Like I said, I would normally ink directly over the pencil art, but for this demonstration, this is the inks. No. I use India ink. Actually, I used to use FW ink. They changed their formula, so I switched. I complained to the manufacturer, and they told me, don't tell anyone, but the Badger Black opaque ink is an old FW formula. However, Badger Black opaque just changed the formula, so I am now looking for a new brand of ink. Even the pen I used was a cheap pen that I loved, but they discontinued it. And when I heard they were discontinued it, I drove all around LA buying up everything I could find at the art supply store. And I figure I bought about now I have like a 30-year supply. But I've been doing design for about 27 years, so I'm getting really anxious, I need to find a new pen, so they do that every so often. But once the cover art is done, then I send it to my publisher, who sends a scan of it to my colorist, Tom Booth. And Tom does a wonderful job. Now he colors it on the computer and he separates it himself. And then it gets printed. Let me show you how it gets printed. Now colors are laid down in waves. And first of all the yellow is printed. And again, you can take a closer look at this later. Once the yellow is put down, the printer prints all the magenta or the red. And let's see. Now you see them mixing optically, you see more oranges there. And the next color to be put down is the blue. Now, you see some areas where it's really dark and some areas where it's lighter. The lighter places are done because they're little dots of color. And the dark places, it's more 100% down. Now you see more greens, browns in here. The black lines is put down as a fourth color. And we can actually get away with using 3 colors, but by using a black line, the lines look a lot sharper. And this is called 4-color process, 4-color printing. And this is how all printing is done, basically, with the multicolor process. You can have as many colors as you want. And this is a comic book. And not all the artwork I do is black and white. I have also done, this is artwork for print. I like to work in watercolors. And so this is a watercolor print, the original artwork for a print that I had done a couple of years ago. And this is done in watercolors. I love watercolors because it's so fast, and actually the paper itself is discontinued. They've discontinued everything I like. I mean, it's a Strathmore 500 series 5-ply, and I was at a convention, and the Strathmore people was there, and I said, "Oh, I love the 5-ply Bristol. It's wonderful. I can do anything with it. It's terrific. I try to get as much as I can whenever I order." And they said, "Oh, I hope you got a lot the last time because we discontinued it about 4 years ago." And so I'm looking for a new. What can I say? Again, we're going to wrap this up soon, so I can do some signings. Do you have any last-minute questions? Yes. In college, my major was fine arts in drawing and painting. It really didn't help that much because at that time, the University of Hawaii was really into abstract expressionism, which didn't help me much. But the anatomy classes, the life drawing was great for me. Any other questions? Yes?
Did you incorporate anything from your personal life into the stories?
Did I incorporate anything from my personal life? Not really, I think, but everything I do with Usagi, there is a little bit of me in there, in all the stories that I do. Basically, all the stories have kind of basically happy endings. I mean, the good guy wins type of thing.
Right.
Or the good guy doesn't win, the bad guy won't get away with it for long. Any other last? Yes? I like to start with the eyes when I draw because for me the eyes kind of center the drawings for me. My friend Serge Aragonés, who works in Mad Magazine, he's a terrific artist, but he can start anywhere. I've seen him start with ears, seen toes. I like to start with eyes. Yes?
Could you talk about a typical day?
A typical day, I'm up at about that, well, if I'm up at 5:30, I'm sleeping in. And it's because I used to wake up early to send the kids off to school, Sharon off to school, make the lunches for them and everything. But I still get up at that time, take a walk. Otherwise, I'm at the drawing table all day. And I'm home all day, so let's see. Tuesdays I wash whites, Wednesdays I color, and I cook dinners about maybe less than half the time, but typical day. Well, let's do this one, yes.
I noticed that the original ones that I purchased a long time ago, when they first came out from my grandchildren, they were all black and white. But in the store down below here, I noticed the hard copy books are in color.
Yes, a hard copy. She had asked about the black and white books. The Redford series is black and white. So there'll be 25 black and white trade paperbacks. The color book you talked about in hardback is a special book called Yokai. And that's the one I was talking about. It was drawn in watercolors, and you can see the original artwork downstairs. And it was a special project done for Usagi's 25th anniversary. I think quite.
The hard copy is more expensive.
No, actually, that particular book costs about the same price as the trade paperbacks. As it's just that it's in color, but it is less pages. Yes, one more. Good question. Any advice for people wanting to become a cartoonist? First of all, take at least a basic drawing class. Learn the principles of perspective, know anatomy, just at least the basics. Take a sketchbook around. Draw as much as you can. Draw from life. If you want to be a cartoonist, do not copy comic books because comic book artists do not know how to draw. Rather, they have already taken all those classes and they've already kind of developed different styles. So don't worry about style. Don't try to force a style. Don't say, I want to draw like Frank Miller and just start drawing Sin City pages or 300 pages or Batman pages. Draw from life. And the most important thing I can tell you is to show your work. No matter how good you are, if you don't show your work around, you'll never be noticed. Show them to friends, to teachers, to other artists, to editors, to publishers. Know what your strong points are and know what your weak points are. Learn to take criticism because if you get into any kind of arts, you will get a lot of criticism. But just learn to take constructive criticism. Okay, so thank you very much. I guess we do this now.
Okay, really quickly before you all move, I'm just going to have everybody just wait right here because we're going to let Stan get to the table. There's a couple pictures we need to take, so there's no need to stampede over. Let me also explain the process.